Joining me is Canadian actor and TV host David Oulton, and he's back on the show to talk about his talk show, Face to Face with David. And he's going to be sharing some exciting news, if you haven't heard already, and what's next for him. Welcome back, David.
Thank you so much for having me back on.
Yeah, so congratulations on having your show airing yesterday. Was it yesterday, airing on OWN TV Canada?
Yesterday, yep, we had our premiere on the Oprah Winfrey Network yesterday. So it's kind of, since we last spoke, which I think was about a year ago, it's been such a wild ride, and we've achieved so many milestones. It's very surreal.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I mean, can you believe that this was July when it premiered on Amazon?
July 2020, It premiered on Prime Video, in the US, the UK, and a couple of other smaller places. But we weren't even in Canada initially when we premiered, and now we're all over the place.
Yeah, so the viewers who may not know, when did it all begin for you? I know we talked last that it began in the living room, an idea during COVID, but can you tell the viewers who missed our interview?
Absolutely, yeah. So it was kind of during the lockdown around end of April, beginning of May last year during the lockdown, when real estate was slow. I have a real estate company. So real estate was slow. There were very limited film opportunities. Everyone was just kind of sitting at home bored. And I think everyone can relate to that. And it hit that point where everyone was just losing their minds a little bit. So I thought, well, everyone else is doing those live videos on social media and just talking to people and recording them. I'm like, well, why don't I do something similar and just at least jump on that trend? And that was the initial thought with it. But the first person I called to say, hey, would you be interested in doing this with me? Basically said, think bigger, and put me in touch with Amazon. They then, within a couple of days, I had signed a distribution deal with Amazon, and they were going to distribute the talk show. And then it was kind of in the blink of an eye. We just were in the throes of making this TV show in my living room. And from the day, that very first phone call to Larry, asking him, would he be interested in doing this, to wrapping production on season 1 of a talk show, was 6 weeks. It was such a quick turnaround. And that's all the pre-production, all the planning, etc. It was a 6-week turnaround for everything. And then only about a month later, we premiered on Amazon Prime, to great success, thankfully, and to great reviews and feedback, which I'm forever grateful for.
Yes. And I mean, how do you maintain your stamina? You're so busy. Are you still a realtor as well?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Why not? The one thing I hate is being bored. I hate sitting still, and it gets me in trouble a lot because I will end up sitting still, and then it's how I ended up with a German Shepherd, and it's how I ended up, being bored and having nothing to do is my worst nightmare. So being able to do the show, all of the additional opportunities that have come now from that, but it allows me to also, in terms of scheduling and balance, it's kind of everything fits nicely, and I keep busy, and I'm happy, and I just love working. And so, of course, yes, still selling real estate, still kind of, the dynamic has changed a little bit, obviously. And I'm very fortunate that I have multiple things that I'm doing now. So when one is slow, the other kind of picks it up, and vice versa. So
yes. And so what is your secret for success, your recipe?
With the show, or just in general?
Just in general. I mean, you're so successful, a realtor, an actor, now your show is a syndicated international talk show.
Really, it's not. I think there's this myth that it's so much more complicated than it is. But I was saying to someone the other day that the biggest obstacle I think most people have with getting to that level of success, and whatever their version of success is just taking that first step. Because so many people have so many great ideas and have so many, wonderful thoughts and business plans, and come up with great concepts for TV shows, or want to get into real estate. And the thing with all of these industries that I love so much is that the sky is the limit. There's no cap on your income. The harder you work, the more successful you will be. And it's just taking that first step. It's no different than going to the gym and wanting to, work out and get fit. It's actually showing up and walking through the front door is the hardest part of the entire process. And I think that's where a lot of people slip up. And there's a buzzword lately that drives me nuts, which is manifesting. And people are all about, well, I'm manifesting it. I manifest, which is great. It's good to have plans and it's good to put thought and focus into it. But what do you do after you're done manifesting? How do you actually execute and implement that and make it come to fruition? So I really do think it's as simple as just starting. If you have an idea, if you want to write a book, start typing. If you want to make a TV show, start filming. If you want to be a realtor and get into real estate, start studying, start door knocking, start doing open house. Does that make sense?
Yes, you are a testimonial.
I should write Hallmark cards. Yeah.
Because it takes, if you will, like believe in yourself and having a team behind you and wanting it, right? Your passion, I can feel it, that you're talking about it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of, it's not impossible. I think when you look at the stats and you see there's so few people that become really successful with real estate and with film and acting and production and all of these industries where, and no different really than starting your own business and being an entrepreneur or an athlete, any of these things, the people that actually get traction and get success are the people that don't give up. There will always be hurdles. And so many people give up at the first sign of struggle. And I mean, even with if I can go off to the side a little bit, I mean, with the talk show between season 1 and season 2, we had a really huge hurdle. And in the moment, I remember sitting in the airport in Vancouver, the day that our second season was supposed to premiere, and it just didn't premiere on Amazon for various reasons. There was delays and it just didn't, they wanted some more changes, but we had already told everyone this is the day. It was really, really challenging, and it would have been very easy just to throw in the towel and say, okay, well, we tried and we did it and it's not working, and now fuck it, basically. Fast forward then a month later, and all of a sudden we were bigger and on more networks and more streaming services and in more countries than we ever would have imagined 4 weeks prior to that, because we just kept brainstorming. It was like, okay, well, get on the flight, fly back, and let's, game this out and do hold a war room session and figure out how do we fix this and how do we use this.
That's wonderful, David, because now your show is on Slice TV, Out TV, and an OWN, Oprah Winfrey Show Network, rather. Would you like to interview her? Actually, when I was just talking about her right now.
She would. Someone asked me that the other day. I would love to interview. Oh. I think she would be such a fun. I just think, really from what I was just saying about, hard work and getting to what you want and actually implementing it. She really is the epitome of that mindset, especially in this industry. So of course, I'd love to have her on. Maybe I can use the fact that we're on her network as a shoe-in. I don't know.
Yeah, that's great. And so tell us the process behind, getting on in the OWN TV Canada.
Yeah. So again, it's just taking that first step and calling and, figuring out who is in charge of acquisitions, getting in touch with them, calling them, and I'll tell you something. When we first started this a year ago, when we had those first 6 that we were filming in my living room, we reached out to all of the networks that we could think of. And it was either no answer or a pass. And, we're not interested, or, now's not the time. And then as the ratings started, I just, made it part of my routine. Like every couple of weeks, I'd follow up with these networks and say, hey, look, check out our ratings, check out our reviews. Here's how we're doing. If anything changes, please let me know. And then very quickly over the course of a 2-month period, we started getting yeses all of a sudden. And okay, wow, yeah, we'll take the meeting now. Or yes, send us a screener, send us this. So in terms of the Oprah Winfrey Network, there are hundreds of television channels, especially in Canada, and probably thousands in the US, for example, but they're all owned by only a handful of companies. So like Out TV, Chorus, Bell Media, CBC, for example, like those are the big players in Canada. So it's just trying to find, it was as simple as really just reaching out to Chorus and having a conversation with them and seeing what would work for them, what would work for us, how do we fit this in. And they've been great to work with. All of the networks that we're working with have been great to work with. And I think what the most, sorry, I'm rambling so much about it.
Oh, wonderful.
But the thing that is the most surprising to me is that all of these networks, and you probably find the same thing, with your own show on the network out in Vancouver, is that once you actually have a product to take to these networks, they're not these big scary corporations that just want to step on you. What I found is that they're actually very willing to give you an opportunity and to help you and to get your show on air and to market it and make great content. That was the most surprising thing to me, because I thought we were going to have so many roadblocks, but quite honestly, without sounding, arrogant about it, getting on television and actually airing and broadcasting has been the easiest part of the entire process with this show.
Yes, that's wonderful. And you've had on your show Vanessa Williams, Emmanuel J, and others. And are there, other guests that you like to interview? Future guests?
Yeah, there are so many that I would love. There are two criteria, and I feel like for the most part, the people that come on the show, because we've had over 50 guests on now, and that you kind of fall. There are two criteria, and you fall typically into one of two categories. And I'm generalizing, but it's for the most part. But the criteria that I have for guests are you have to be interesting and interested. So interesting in the sense that you want to share your story and it's something that people will enjoy hearing about. Maybe they learn something, maybe they laugh, maybe it's entertainment, whatever. But also interested in coming on and being open and being authentic and being vulnerable. And I always say, a standout in terms of being authentic and the most surprising always, after doing over 50 of these interviews so far, is still Perez Hilton. And I thought that, everybody knows Perez Hilton, everybody knows his shtick and kind of his the things that he does. And I thought going into that interview that I knew exactly the kind of explosive and controversial discussion it would be, but it was so the opposite of what I thought. And he was so authentic and so genuine. So he's the really good example of that. But then also the guests, you don't have to be famous or have hundreds of thousands of followers. We kind of have two different categories of guests, and which are those household names and those people that are in the industry. But also then there are the people that are on the other end of the scale, who are just starting out, or maybe not in entertainment at all, but they have a really interesting story to tell, or they have a business to tell, or they have an inspiring kind of something to share with people. So I'm less about, when I think of the ideal guest and who I would love to have on when we start filming again, it's less about how famous they are, more about how interesting and how unique that perspective is.
It's wonderful. And what is next for you, David?
Well, we're filming another show right now. So as a spin-off of the talk show, I've got this little fly on the wall kind of, they call it a docuseries. It's a reality show, that's at its core is what it is. So kind of showing really how we get this show off the ground with a very core there are not hundreds of people that work on Face to Face with David. There's a core team of about 5 people. And it's kind of showing, how do we get the show off the ground? How do we figure all this out with just a small group of us, etc., as well as the real estate and all the other stuff going on. So we're filming that right now. We go back to production on Face to Face with David later in the fall for some new episodes. So it's kind of, things are busy and, very grateful and very fortunate.
Wonderful. And if people want to check out your show, where can they go?
Oh my goodness.
Everywhere.
If you just search it, if you're in Canada, are most of your viewers Canadian?
Yes, but global too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're in Canada, you can watch it weekdays right now on Out TV, the Oprah Winfrey Network, and Slice. You can stream it on Amazon, Apple TV, or the Global TV app. If you're globally, probably the best option, honestly, is check Amazon or just check your local listings, because it's different networks in different countries. Like New Zealand, for example, is TV New Zealand. If you're watching this in South Africa, then it's on Showmax in South Africa. There's so, it sounds so horrible to say, but there are so many to try and keep track of what networks and what countries. So the easiest thing is just to search it.
Well, that's a good thing, David. And
Yeah. It's a
congratulations.
very surreal problem to have.
No, congratulations again. I'd like you to come back
Thank
on
you
the
so much.
show.
Yeah, I love your program. I love it. And I think, you're doing exactly what we've done. And it shows that there are so many people that now reach out a message and say, how do I get my own show, or how do I do it? And it's like, it's really not, it's not that it's not hard, and that, you have to put a lot of sweat equity into it and you have to put a lot of work into it, but it's not hard to get a show from filming onto broadcast. And I mean, you've done the same thing with what you're doing out in Vancouver. So I think it's, kudos to you, and you've been doing it for a lot longer than I have as well. So yeah.
Well, as I said, you were a testimony. And I really appreciate your time. And
Thank you for the opportunity, and yeah.
thank you, David.